Look at the massive, thick trunks and spindly tops of the baobab trees lining this path. According to a local Malagasy legend, a god grew frustrated with the tree, plucked it entirely out of the ground, and shoved it back into the dirt upside down. 88 million years ago, the tectonic landmass of Madagascar snapped off from the African continent, opening a vast, impassable oceanic divide. Marooned in the Indian Ocean, the flora and fauna on this severed island took an evolutionary path disconnected from the rest of the planet. Traits that seem completely backward to us became the standard survival mechanisms here. To understand Madagascar, you have to throw out your preconceptions about how primate biology, human grief, and global history are supposed to work. Take the sifaka lemur. Its hind legs have evolved strictly for leaping vast distances between vertical tree trunks, which makes walking normally on flat ground physically impossible. This is a sifaka lemur caught mid-leap across a flat, sandy clearing. Because it can't place one foot in front of the other, it crosses open spaces by throwing its arms up and executing a bizarre sideways hopping ballet. Or consider the ai, a primate that completely bypassed normal foraging behavior to develop a highly specialized, almost alien hunting tool. Notice the hands on this small ai. It uses that elongated, skeletal middle finger to tap on tree bark like biological sonar, listening for hollow spaces, and then spears the hidden grubs inside. These physical adaptations are strange, but the isolation of the island also warped the timeline of how animals live and die. Laborde's chameleon has to navigate an intensely harsh, prolonged dry season in the Western Plains. Its solution is a hyper-accelerated life cycle. They hatch from their eggs with the November rains, reach sexual maturity in mere weeks, breed, and then the entire adult population drops dead. For over half the year, the entire species exists exclusively as eggs buried underground. And if you look back into the island's deep past, isolation also warped physical scale. This skeletal mount belongs to the extinct elephant bird, a massive creature weighing over 1,000 pounds that roamed the island until the 17th century. Next to a standard chicken and a regular egg, you can see the sheer massive scale of this intact elephant bird egg. Early human settlers actually repurposed these giant 2-gallon shells to carry and store their drinking water. Cut off from the evolutionary pressures of the mainland, the baseline rules for survival, size, and lifespan were entirely rewritten. When humans finally did arrive, the island's strange influence extended to them as well. During the golden age of piracy, heavily armed outlaws from the Atlantic fled here to escape European navies. But instead of plundering the locals, these violent criminals settled down. They leveraged their wealth and their strict shipboard codes of equality to operate as peaceful, impartial judges for local disputes. This historical photograph shows Malagasy women in traditional patterned dresses. To secure permanent social standing, the wealthy European pirates intermarried with local market-controlling matriarchs, who were very similar to the powerful women pictured here. The offspring of these unions formed the Betsy Misaraka Confederation. They built an egalitarian, stateless society governed by radical democratic principles, completely avoiding the predatory slave trade and European imperialism. Decades before the philosophers of the European Enlightenment began theorizing about human freedom in the salons of Paris, an actual democratic experiment was flourishing on the remote coast of Madagascar. This unique social evolution is also visible in the Malagasy worldview today, which is heavily guided by fady, a complex, highly localized system of strict taboos that dictate everyday behavior. If you visit these painted stone Mahafali tombs out in the dry grasslands, you will run into a famous fady. You are strictly forbidden from pointing a single finger at an ancestral grave. You must use a clenched fist or a wide open hand. That reverence for the dead leads to the island's most striking cultural practice. The Malagasy maintain an active physical relationship with their ancestors through a ritual called Famadihana. Every 2 to 7 years, families open their ancestral crypts. They carefully pull the corpse of their loved ones out into the sunlight, clean them, and wrap them tightly in fresh, expensive silk shrouds. In this photograph of a Famadihana ceremony, you can see a massive crowd hoisting a shrouded body up into the air. Instead of weeping, family members dance joyfully with the corpses to live brass bands, sharing news and celebrating the reunion. This is a profound act of love that replaces the silence of a funeral with a celebration. It suggests that death doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. Let's go back to that dirt path. The avenue of the baobabs is actually a graveyard. Those trees originally stood inside a massive, dense tropical forest. After humans arrived, the surrounding forest was systematically cut down for agriculture. The baobabs were spared only because the locals recognized something sacred in them, leaving these isolated giants standing alone. Madagascar functions as a unique laboratory of life and culture, far removed from any global standard. It demonstrates that there is no single correct baseline for how a primate should move, a society should govern, or how families honor their ancestors. When you look at this ancient baobab silhouetted against the spinning night sky, it leaves you with one conclusion. When left entirely alone, life will inevitably find a wildly creative, beautifully strange way to exist.